Will there be an amnesty for people with a criminal record?
If I may follow up on your question, and quite frankly, you characterized it that this will be readily available to children in a home, and that's simply not true.
Where will it be?
First of all, every province and territory has been their authority and jurisdiction to enact such regulations to ensure that personal cultivation under any circumstances will be done safely. And so they may pass regulations that put restrictions on it. In addition, within the federal legislation, it's an offense to make this drug available to a person under the age of majority, and we've been very clear in that. And so, frankly, not only do we expect good parenting, but the law requires that any adult who has in lawful possession of cannabis through personal cultivation or something that they've purchased have a responsibility not to make it available to children. And quite frankly, let's also be clear, cannabis is already very much present in our communities and in houses and children. Parents have a very serious responsibility, but the law also places a strict onus upon them to protect their kids from this drug.
Unimpaired the Americans about the border. We know that Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale has been speaking to the Americans, trying to get some sort of deal so that there won't be long lineups at the border. Can you tell us where that stands?
Well, you're correct. The Minister of Public Safety has been having ongoing conversations with his counterparts in the United States. For particulars on that, you would have to ask the Public Safety Minister. But suffices to say, individual, we would never impart on an individual country their ability to make laws and to secure their borders. If Canadians are going to the border and passing the border, I would strongly recommend that they answer the questions honestly, and it's still illegal to take marijuana across the border.
Unimpaired driving, I don't know if Mr. Blair, or when do you intend on announcing which drug testing devices you will have approved, and what do you say to police forces who say they're running out of time to train and get ready to use them and be ready for the implementation?
Well, again, I'm very happy to speak about C-46, which is the impaired driving bill, which we expect to pass through the parliamentary process very soon, which would create among the toughest impaired driving laws in the world. In the lead up to and during C-46 debates, we have been having ongoing and extensive conversations and benefiting from the work of the Drugs and Driving Committee, who are looking at the devices and will be recommending devices for the oral fluid screeners that I will be able to certify to provide law enforcement officers with an additional tool to be able to detect drug-impaired driving. That is something that is a priority and that we're working on and will come to pass in the near future. But I will say also, in terms of chiefs of police, and I know that my parliamentary secretary can speak to this as well, the Canadian Association of the Chiefs of Police recognize that there are existing comprehensive tools for law enforcement officers to be able to detect drug-impaired driving, which has been an offense since since 1925. We have invested significant amounts of money into training for law enforcement officers to be able to be trained effectively in terms of drug recognition evaluations. So we are confident that we are prepared for royal assent and the coming into force of Bill C-46.
On the amnesty, there are people who have small possession criminal records, and that will soon be legal. Is the government considering some sort of amnesty or pardons for people with pot crimes, and when?
Well, again, this falls under the purview of my colleague, the Minister of Public Safety. The Minister and I have had conversations about this. Our focus has been and is the coming into force of the Cannabis Act and ensuring that all the regulations around the legalization of cannabis are in place. At that time, we will, or he will, have consideration around the question that you asked.
We don't thought about it. Don't you know the?
We've thought about it, but we are focused right now on the Cannabis Act.
Yeah, but is the door open to it? You mean you're saying we're having conversation? We'll see once the bill is passed. What do you say to people who have a minor criminal record? Is there a possibility that they'll get a pardon, or are they just going to remain criminals while everyone else is allowed to do it?
And I think it's already been stated. as has already been stated, the law remains in effect until it's repealed and replaced through Bill C-46. And quite frankly, any discussion of those records can't take place until that process is complete. And so we're working hard for doing the important work of repealing the existing legislation, replacing it with a comprehensive system of regulatory control that will be far more effective in protecting our communities and our kids. And it will then be possible for the government to turn its mind to the issue of the existing records or any disparity that exists thereof.
Is the government open to it?
Well, again, I believe that's premature. We have a responsibility to uphold the existing law, and we are doing that. This is a nation based on the rule of law, and that law is in effect, and we'll continue to uphold it until it is repealed and replaced.
One last question.